My client went from 0 clients in 6 months to 2 clients in 2 days without working. In other words, he achieved more effortlessly. So, 2 weeks ago, I posted saying that my client quit his business. He'd been doing this business in lead generation for a very long time. In reality, I think it was way longer than 6 months. And he'd barely been able to secure a client. And if he did, it was one on a low ticket and he wouldn't be able to keep them. For the last 6 months, he hadn't been able to sign anyone, but he felt trapped in it because he'd given so much to it. And so he had to build up his confidence to be able to leave that. And then 1 week later, I see that he posts that he's closed 2 deals in 2 days without chasing clients, without thinking about money. He'd been able to pursue the thing that he wanted to do, which he loved, which was about finances and wasn't about lead gen anymore. And because he was able to listen to his intuition, he closed 2 deals in 2 days. And so that is the secret that I'm going to be sharing with you about being able to achieve more without having to work so hard and having it effortlessly. It's by being able to hear the universe, God, your intuition. Now, here is my friend Ash again. And if you read through this, essentially, he was at a restaurant that was quite pricey and he was thinking about, how can I get this a bit cheaper? And he was thinking of using his sales skills. He's a very, very good salesman. And actually what happened was a woman who was going to catch a flight and had a coupon gave him the coupon out of everyone in the restaurant because she wouldn't be able to use it anymore. And he got a 25% discount simply by being open to the fact that it might happen. Now, I'm going to share with you a personal story because listening to intuition and God or the universe, whichever you want to call it, may bring things effortlessly to you, but it's not always in the way that you want unless you do things carefully. So I was at a point in my life where I really needed rent money. And so I was connecting with myself and trying to find any way that I could have this rent money come to me effortlessly. What ended up happening was I was driving along and a car came out of a side road and hit my passenger door. And so he ended up paying me the money instead of going through the insurance, and I was able to pay my rent through the money that I got from this guy crashing into me. So sometimes you have to be careful about how this is going to happen, and that's exactly what we're going to do. This video is going to start giving you the tools to help you start hearing God, the universe, your intuition, whatever you want to call it. It will make your life flow easier. It will bring you greater success. Again, this video is not going to fix you. You have to do the work yourself. This isn't going, just because this is effortless, doesn't mean that it's going to take no work. There's going to be some working hard to be done, but it will not feel like hard work. So, why do we resist these easier ways, these effortless ways of achieving things? It's because in school we hear that life is hard. With our parents we hear that money doesn't grow on trees. And in society we're taught that nothing comes easy in this life. There are so many things that we hear which then go into our brain and our subconscious, which then affect the way that we act. If we constantly hear something, we are going to believe it. It is going to sink into our subconscious, and then that's going to affect the way that we feel, the way that we think, and therefore the way that we act on things. And so we are acting in a way where life is hard, where money doesn't grow on trees, and nothing comes easy in this life. And so it's just a way that society is set up at the minute, that we are programmed, unless you do the conscious work, to act in a way that life is hard. So, behavioral psychology says, if you want to know what someone believes, observe the way that they act. So someone might say that, I think it's easy to win the lottery. And they may claim to have that as a belief, but actually you can see that they never buy a lottery ticket. And so their true belief, deeper within inside of them, is that they believe that the lottery is hard to win. And so that's one of the ways that we can see the difference between what a true belief is, something which is ingrained in us, and something which we like to tell ourselves. And that's the same thing here. I'm sure some of you may have felt some resistance there and may have felt like, oh no, I think that money can come to me easy. But if money's not coming to you easy, I assure you within yourself, there is a stronger belief in your subconscious that money is difficult. And although you might tell yourself that money is easy to come by, you still don't believe it just yet. Spirituality says that the universe will reflect back what we believe. And this is exactly what I'm saying there. If you don't truly believe within you that money is easy to come by, then you're not going to have a lot of money right now. If you truly believe within inside yourself and you vibrate at a frequency that money is easy to come by, that is the way that you will communicate with the universe. It's what the universe will communicate back to you. And so all the times when you're not telling yourself that money is easy to come by, you must be telling it what is truly within your subconscious, what frequency you are currently vibrating at. Okay, and that is the frequency which you vibrate at the majority of the time. Another fun example of how finding your intuition can bring about results effortlessly. Herding goats. For years, we have been using sheepdogs, and you've needed to get a good sheepdog. You need to train it. You need to train yourself to know all of the calls, to know how to use the hand signals, how to get the dog in. The dog is exerting a lot of force to be able to herd these goats. When someone found that goats really like music, and so someone like this man here will sit in his pen, he'll play his music, and the goats will come to him. This didn't come through logic. This didn't come through looking at a system and constantly trying to find how to better that system. That just came through a piece of intuition. That just came from something told him, either the God, the universe's intuition, whatever you want to call it, said to him, why don't you try some music? He did it and it worked. And now he's able to achieve more effortlessly. So it's this resistance in our brains through wanting to hit this logic, through our frequency, through our subconscious beliefs, which is keeping God, your intuition, what the universe is trying to tell you, away from you. So how do we remove that resistance and how do we start hearing? It comes in 3 steps. You first need to quiet your mind. You then need to align yourself. And then it's trust and action. So let's break those down one step at a time. First one, quietening the mind. If you want to hear your intuition, your ego needs to shut up. Your ego is that voice that you hear inside of your head that is constantly speaking to you. It's the one that's constantly thinking about the thing you have to do next. It's constantly thinking about what you normally do on a Wednesday. It's that thing that is constantly trying to attach you to these identities you have in yourself, that you are a son, you are a founder, you are a hard worker, you are a good lover, you are whatever. It's constantly trying to attach to these things, and that is what your ego is, and that is it constantly trying to speak to you to affirm its identity. So we need to shut the ego up. We need to reduce the noise. Now, your brain and your ego is always going to direct you down to one road, and that is comfort. That is one of the reasons that ego is constantly trying to reaffirm its identity, because it feels comfortable to know that it is a founder, and so it does everything to prove that it is a founder, and it thinks in a way that a founder should think, because then it doesn't have to break out the box of, what if I'm not a founder? What if I'm something else? What if I'm this type of founder? What if the business falls apart? It doesn't need to worry about any of that, because we are going towards the road of comfort. All right, so one way that we can start to quieten the mind is by reducing the activity of the amygdala. This is a part of your brain which in psychology shows that it searches for threats. It's the thing trying to keep you safe. And this is also the thing which puts you into your fight, flight, freeze, or fawn response. It's constantly on. It's constantly looking for any threats. It is trying to keep you safe at all times. And as you can imagine, this was a big advantage when we were in our more primal states, and when we had to worry about things eating us or attacking us, or some diseases that we might get. We don't need to do that anymore, but our brain hasn't been able to catch up yet, because it's not had the 10, 20, 50,000 years to evolve and find that we are in a society where for the most part we are safe. So how do we start to reduce the noise of the amygdala? Through meditation. And you can find this in different scientific articles, such as the one with T.R.A. Cow in 2018. By doing mindful meditations, we can start to reduce the noise of the amygdala. A mindful meditation is one where we become the observer of our thoughts, of our body, the things that are going on. Let's just run this little test quickly. Were you when you were 5 years old? Are you now? Did you know that there is not a single cell in your body which is the same as when you were 5 years old to when you were now? So how is it if every single part of your body has changed, that you are still you. It's because of this observer, this thing inside of you. And so the idea is to tap into that role of the observer, be quiet, close your eyes, and just watch the thoughts go by. You don't need to attach any meaning to them. You don't need to actively push them away. Just become aware of the thoughts, aware of your body pressing against the sofa or chair that you're sitting in. You be aware of your breath coming in and out. Be aware of the things that are trying to take your attention. Just become more aware. And this will start to reduce your amygdala so that it's not searching for threats all of the time, so that you can start to quieten your mind. Another way that we can quieten our mind is through reducing dopamine. Dopamine is a hormone that runs throughout our body, and it is something which is we are trying to get at all times. Dopamine feels really good in our body. It's a sign that there is a reward coming, and so our body chases it a lot. One of the things in modern society is social media and YouTube and films and all these different things that are very high in dopamine, and it can hurt our receptors, and it can get us very used to high levels of dopamine. And then our mind is constantly trying to chase this high again and again and again because it needs a hit of dopamine. The more dopamine that you've experienced, the more dopamine it needs to get. And so the harder it needs to look for it, the more thoughts that are going to be in your head. So a very easy thing to do is to put down your phone, stop watching TikToks, stop watching YouTube, and reduce the amount of dopamine that you put into your life. Now, this is something that I've had to do myself, and something which can rely on a lot of willpower, which we will get into later, and I'll show you why willpower is not a great idea, especially if you're trying to achieve things effortlessly. So I really recommend to avoid alexithymia, which is a personality trait, often described as emotional color blindness, characterized by difficulty identifying, understanding, describing, and processing emotions. Essentially, the higher levels of dopamine you have in your body, the more likely you are to have alexithymia, which makes it hard to notice these things that are going on in your body. And so we need to quieten the mind from having that dopamine, and we also make it easier for our mind to find these emotions, understand them. And that is just sort of proof that when you quieten your mind, that you're going to find more things. I recommend using Opal. This is an app. This isn't an advert. This is just something that I use for myself. You set it up. It locks certain apps like TikTok. If you ever wanted to go onto TikTok, you first have to go onto Opal. You have to do like 10 seconds of deep breathing, and then it will unlock the app for 5 to 15 minutes, depending on what you want. And it just gives you that break in between wanting to do TikTok and having to do TikTok. That gives you the time to think and catch yourself, become conscious, and go like, actually, I don't need this dopamine boost. And if you do, then it limits you to 15 minutes anyway. Cool. So we've had meditation to reduce the amygdala and reducing the amount of TikTok and things like that to reduce your dopamine. The next thing that we have is that your brain is designed to find the easiest route, just like a river. A river doesn't just flow in a straight line. It goes through the cracks and crevices and the mounds of the earth to find the easiest way for the water to flow. And your brain does the same thing when you think. It goes through the same synapses and the same motor and the same nerves to get to a certain place. Because essentially, when you have your nerve cell, it develops myelin around the nerve cell, which basically strengthens that pathway. And so your brain will want to continuously go down these same paths. And these same paths are comfortable. So your brain is chasing it. And when you go down these paths, it knows what's coming next. And so your brain just goes on a loop of this thought to the next thought, to the next thought, to the next thought, to the next thought. And so we need to be able to break it. However, a routine is not easy to break because of the myelin, because of wanting to be as comfortable as possible. And to first break that routine, it can take some willpower. And this can be something as simple as you make your bed in a different way in the morning. You decide to do some jumping jacks in the morning. You make your breakfast, but then you run around the table 10 times. It's just something to break your pattern of thought and the way that you normally do things. And to avoid it taking so much willpower, that moves us on to our second step, which is aligning your frequency. So, to align your frequency, to make these actions in line with the person that you are so that it doesn't take so much effort and willpower to be able to achieve them. First practice, all right? Think of a film. A film begins at the beginning and it ends at the end. It follows that timeline. It goes all the way through. Now, if you took that same film, you opened up the camera roll, and you saw every single frame in front of you laid out onto a table, you can now see that the beginning and the end and all the parts in the middle exist at the same time. And that is because time is not linear and there are infinite lifelines. We, in our human body, experience life from start to finish. We experience time linearly, but outside of space-time, all of time is happening at the same time. And all of the possible infinite possibilities and lifelines are happening at the same time. When we look at this in quantum physics, it's the idea that energy is a wave until it's observed and then it collapses into a particle. And when it collapses, it could collapse into the possibility of you becoming a millionaire or you becoming homeless. But it existed inside that same wave. So the idea is that you just simply need to choose which lifeline you want to exist on. And when you choose that lifeline that you want to exist on, you then need to align your frequency to it. Now, this is taken from the Map of Consciousness from David Hawkins, which is amazing. If you want to go read his book, Power versus Force, I highly recommend it. And yeah, when you have this lifeline, you want to align yourself to it. You want your frequency to represent what's going on in there. And so you might need to be embodying reason if it's something that you need to think hard about and it's really testing you. Same thing that like doctors and surgeons and all of these high thinking and highly logical services have. Maybe you need to act within neutrality if you're dealing with a lot of people that are in shame and a lot of people that are up in peace. You need to be able to ride the waves without getting taken away by the high highs and the low lows. So when you have this frequency inside of you, the way that that wave is going to collapse into a particle will depend on that frequency. And so if you're showing a lot of love, the way the wave will collapse will be in a way that gives you a lot of love. That is the way that we align our frequency. Another way of us being able to choose exactly which state of consciousness we want to be in is through visualization, visualizing a 10-second scene. And I've got a resource, a document with a guided meditation, which can deep dive into this visualization, which can get you onto the right level of consciousness and onto the right lifeline that you have chosen where you have already achieved your goals. Essentially, you want to get into a deep meditative state. Then you want to visualize a 10-second scene, which simply has a loved one saying to you that like, I knew you'd make 10K. I knew you'd get that promotion. I knew you'd love the work that you do. That is how we align our frequency so that we have the identity, the feelings, and the thoughts, which makes the actions easy for us to quieten our mind and to be on the path where we already achieve our goals. The third thing, now that we've quieted our mind, we have got ourselves onto lifeline, God, the universe, your intuition is going to start speaking to you. And the way that you can find out whether it's your intuition or whether it's your ego, which does a better and better job of hiding the more you push it away, is to feel something, act on something, and reflect on something. Now, this point is meant to take a lot of trust, and so I'm not going to deep dive into it. It's something where you need to trust yourself. You are capable of this. You're strong enough to do this. There are going to be times where someone says something, or there's a feeling that you get when something happens. For example, one of my friends once mentioned doing retreats, and it just lit a light inside of me, and I knew that I needed to do retreats. And that has gone on to become very successful for me. It's worked. So I felt it, I acted on it, I built out a deck for my retreats. I then started sending it out to people, and within a week I had 3 people signing up for my retreats that I'd never really thought that I would ever do this with. They had no idea to trust me. They had no reason to trust that I would do a good retreat. They just trusted that I did. Afterwards, I could reflect on it, and the feeling of going down that path of pursuing the retreats worked for me. Whether I sold tickets or not doesn't really matter. It's just the idea of, did that feel right? Did that feel soulful? Or did that feel like that my ego tricked me? So that's trust in action. Feel something, act on it, reflect on it. Just to recap, everything that we've gone over today because it's a bigger video. To achieve more easily without effort, you first need to quieten the mind using mindful meditation, reducing dopamine and breaking your routine. You can then align your frequency by raising your level of consciousness to whichever level is needed and using a visualization. Again, if you'd like a deep dive into a visualization and with a guided meditation and exactly how to craft your own visualization, then please leave a comment. And the final thing is trust. Feel something, act on it, and reflect. That is how you can achieve more with less effort.